don't want my children to share a neighborhood with people who are not properly vetted. And because I don't want it for my kids, I'm not going to force any other American citizens' kids to do that either.
No, and that was a very particular case. It wasn't clear if he was radicalized when he got here or while he was living here.
I don't really care, Margaret. I don't want that person in my country, and I think most Americans agree with me.
Absolutely brilliant. That is J.D. Vance, Vice President of the United States of America, appearing on CBS and just laying the smackdown on this interviewer, Margaret something or other. And yeah, he says it like it is. And this is the sort of way that all conservatives and Republicans and whatever you want to call them should be talking all the time. I don't really care. And I don't think most Americans do either. I don't really care. I don't care what you think about, importing tens of thousands or actually tens of millions of third worlders into European countries or countries created by Europeans. I don't really care. They don't belong here. There's literally nothing they can contribute here. They can contribute in their own countries, of course. I'm sure there's plenty of brilliant people in India or Afghanistan or wherever. But poaching them for our countries and opening our borders for so-called, for these so-called refugees and asylum seekers, which are bogus, 100% bogus, is civilizational suicide. And anyone allowing it and promoting it, well, they want to kill our societies. Make of that what you will. But J.D. Vance was just not holding back here. I think that's probably become a meme. I don't really care, Margaret. I mean, that's instant meme worthy stuff right there. Anyway, we're on the Matt Walsh show. He's commenting on this clip. Let's see what he has to say.
Made them. Our political leaders and expert class in this country have pretended for so long that all of our problems are hopelessly complicated. There's really nothing we can do to solve any of them. All we can do is sit around pontificating and debating and coming up with abstract theories to explain why we're so screwed. Well, Trump is proving that you can actually take action and do simple yet effective things to solve serious yet simple problems. You can, in fact, just do stuff. You can send illegal aliens back home, and when their home country doesn't want to take them, you can force them. And that's maybe the single most prominent lesson from Donald Trump's first week in office. We've already accomplished more on the international stage than we did in 4 years under the Biden administration. For Americans, this is a rare and welcome sign that we're finally getting what we voted for. And for everybody else, especially in places like Haiti and Colombia, but also all over the world, it's a clear signal that they need to respect American sovereignty. And if they don't, then they too will be as humiliated as the president of Colombia is right now. They will face crushing embarrassment or worse on the international stage. And the United States, without apologizing to anyone, will celebrate their defeat. Now let's get to our 5 headlines. Okay, J.D. Vance was back on the cable news circuit over the weekend. Personally, I'd like to see Trump send Vance out to do the cable news rounds every weekend. Just keep sending him until they refuse to take him anymore because he's constantly humiliating the news anchors. Vance is very, very good at this. And that's what led to this immediately iconic moment between Vance and CBS anchor Margaret Brennan on Sunday. Here they're talking about the refugee program and the lack of vetting that has historically accompanied these so-called refugees and asylum seekers who come to this country. Or at least Vance is talking about the lack of vetting. Margaret Brennan is insisting that they are being vetted. And that culminated in this great moment. Watch.
Well, Margaret, I don't agree that all these immigrants or all these refugees have been properly vetted. In fact, we know that there are cases of people who allegedly were properly vetted and then were literally planning terrorist attacks on our country. That happened during the campaign, if you may remember. So clearly not all of these foreign nationals have been properly vetted.
But there are 30,000 people in the pipeline, Afghan refugees.
But my primary concern as the vice president, Margaret, is to look after the American people. And now that we know that we have vetting problems with a lot of these refugee programs, we absolutely cannot unleash thousands of unvetted people into our country.
These people
it's not
are vetted.
good.
These people are vetted.
Just like the guy who planned a terrorist attack in Oklahoma a few months ago, he was allegedly properly vetted, and many people in the media and the Democratic Party said that he was properly vetted. Clearly, he wasn't. I don't want my children to share a neighborhood with people who are not properly vetted, and because I don't want it for my kids, I'm not going to force any other American citizens' kids to do that either.
No, and that was a very particular case. It wasn't clear if he was radicalized when he got here or while he was living here.
I don't really care, Margaret. I don't want that person in my country, and I think most Americans agree with me.
Yeah, just to, God, that's absolutely beautiful. And the fact that somebody, like she makes the point, well, you know, it's not clear whether he was radicalized while still in Afghanistan or after he came here. And J.D. Vance correctly said, yeah, I do not care. I don't care, Margaret. I don't want that person in my country. Yeah. Why should we even have anybody in our country who could potentially already be radicalized or could be radicalized because they're from a country like Afghanistan or Saudi Arabia or wherever, you know? Just bring in, you know, the United States immigration policy prior to 1965 was very rational, and it was extreme. It was almost exclusively European immigrants who came, with one or two exceptions, such as the Chinese who worked on the railroad. But it was overwhelmingly European on purpose because the United States is a European country. It was founded by Europeans. Don't get mad at me if you can't handle that simple truth. As are the other Anglosphere countries, and of course the European countries proper. Non-Europeans simply don't belong here. Now, there's always going to be some, of course, a few, but the overwhelming majority should be Europeans. Like, when I say overwhelming majority, I mean like 95%. I don't mean like 55%.
So that line at the end there has already become a legendary meme. I don't really care, Margaret. It's kind of the frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn of this generation. And it is as simple as that. I don't care. I don't want that person in my country. That's it. But why do we want that person here? And it, you know, the line is great. It becomes like a slogan, a banner that we can march under. I don't really care, Margaret. I don't want that person in this country. And what's great about it is because it represents two things. And the first is, I don't care, right? You could try to use emotional blackmail. You can do the guilt trip routine. You can call us bigots, whatever. We don't care. And this is why I've always said that the most powerful response to anyone on the left when they try to put a label on you, you know, when you're making an argument and they respond by saying, well, if you think that makes you a xenophobe, a homophobe, whatever, racist. The most powerful way to respond is to look at them and say, I don't care that you think that of me. Okay? I understand that you think I'm a racist, sexist bigot. I don't care that you think that. It doesn't matter to me. Your opinion of me is irrelevant. And that it's a totally disarming response because the whole labeling tactic, the whole strategy depends on you caring about the labels they put on you, which is why, for a very long time, this strategy was effective because people were, even on the right, were, you know, many of them were terrified of being labeled, you know, certain things. But if you don't care, then what? What now? That is like, well, I got nothing left. It's, oh, well, if it's mean to think that. Oh, okay. Or you.
Exactly. Matt Walsh is absolutely nailing it here. Yeah, I don't care. Not my problem. I don't care. Mean? Yeah, whatever. Bigot? Yeah, whatever. Racist? Yeah, whatever.
Denying that it's mean? I'm not really even deny. I don't care enough to even deny it. That's what you think. I don't care that you think that. Well, but what you know, they got nothing. They got nothing left. And if you make it clear that you don't care how they feel about you, you don't care that they disapprove, you don't care about any of that, there's really nowhere for them to go from there. And the second part is just as important because Vance says he doesn't want the person in his country. he wouldn't want that person in his community living next door to his wife and children. It's a really important point. This is something that a lot of us have said about politicians for a long time. Like, we're the ones saying to the politicians that are facilitating the invasion of our country, we say, well, you wouldn't want your children living in a neighborhood with these people. To hear that now from the vice president, that exact same logic, where he's saying, yeah, you're right, I wouldn't want these people living with my children. And if I don't want them around my children, I'm not going to put them in anyone else's community.
Yeah, that's an excellent point because, as we all know, for decades now, liberals have been completely insulated from the catastrophic consequences of their policies. You know, they're all for open borders and being compassionate and, you know, they're just drug addicts, let them do their thing on the streets and all that. You know, they're just people looking for a better life, let tens of millions of them across the border. But, you know, in these places like California, you know, the elite class, the politicians they are insulated from the catastrophic effects, consequences of those policies. They live in gated communities. They live in the rich areas where they don't have to see the results. They don't have to deal with the results. But to hear the vice president say this is sending a very powerful signal. I don't know if I've ever heard like a congressman, much less a vice president or president, say anything like that. I mean, not in my lifetime, of course. You know, back in the old days when everybody was when everybody was playing on, you know, when the ground rules of underlying American society were understood on both sides, it would have been perfectly normal to say something like that, of course. In the 1950s, 1960s, 1940s, whatever. Yeah, it was perfectly normal. It was because it's common sense.
Around anyone else's children. Like, that's exactly the kind of thinking that we need. And it really is as simple as that. That's how we should be thinking about this issue. When it comes to immigrants, refugees, asylum seekers, whatever we want to call them, and really all of these categories are now, like, they're indistinguishable. I mean, there's really no distinguishing, but every single illegal immigrant in the country, according to the left, would qualify as a refugee. Every single one. And they wouldn't even deny that. I mean, they would not look at any illegal immigrant and say, well, yeah, except for he's not a refugee. Except maybe if you had any illegal immigrants from a predominantly white country, then maybe in that case they would say, well, it doesn't count. But
yeah, absolutely. Excellent point by Matt Walsh there.
For the most part, they would say these are all the same. So you take whatever we're talking about, immigrant, refugee, asylum seeker, the first and really only question we should be asking is, do we want these people in our country? Does it benefit us to have them in our country? We know it benefits them. That's not the question. The question is not, is it better for the Afghan national to be in our country than in Afghanistan? Well, sure, of course it is. Who wants to live in Afghanistan? That's not the point, though. The point is it better for our country for this person to be in it?
There we go. I mean, ultimately, that's the question. And frankly, as I've said in many other videos, I'm sorry, but there is not a single person in Afghanistan, in Uganda, in India, in anywhere else in the global south or the third world or whatever we're calling it, there is not a single person who is needed and required in a Western country. Sorry, not saying there's not valuable people there, and that's not at all what I'm saying, so don't get me wrong. Not saying there's not brilliant people in these countries, the global south, the third world. But their countries need them. They need them. We don't need them. We have all the people we need, yeah? And we have to make sure that we continue training our people to maintain the society that we've built. Because third worlders, not only can they not build Western societies, because if they could, they would have already done it, but they can't maintain them either. And we are already seeing that in the competency crisis, which is starting to plague the Western world now. And why is it plaguing the Western world? Because the Western world is no longer, or is increasingly less European. Sorry, those are just the hard facts. You know, I know I'm going to annoy or anger some of you, but these are the kinds of things that we have to be able to say and think, or think and say out loud, and not care what what the consequences of saying them are, because we don't care. You know, it doesn't matter. The proof is all around us. Like I just said, if non-Westerners could build Western societies, they would have already done it. Yeah, it really comes down to that. So let me know what you think in the comments. I've been reading all the comments recently, been replying to quite a few. I really appreciate the interaction. It's great. I really appreciate it. And in the meantime, please like and subscribe. That helps me grow the channel. I'm already got something. I'm coming up to 6,000 subscribers, so I'm very happy with that. And maybe at 10,000, I should do something. Maybe I should do like a face reveal or something like that. Let me know what you think. But in the meantime, please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.